click there, and you'll have some documents come up. You'll actually have three. My example only has two. But what these two are, these are both guides to reading the comments on your paragraph. So one is in the form of a paragraph. They're just two different versions, basically giving the same information. You can use both of them. So go ahead and download them both so you can look at them both. And then you'll have an additional document to download, and that's going to be your paragraph, your graded paragraph with my feedback and the rubric. So you'll have three documents to download. So go ahead and do that now. So go to the class, go to my grades, and find your feedback and go ahead and download it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through I'm going to go through the example. So the revising and editing comments guide narrative. So I should have changed the name of that document. It's horrible. But this is a paragraph form, so I'm going to use this as an example paragraph to show you how to read your feedback. So you don't actually have to look at your feedback right now. You can if you want to. I am recording this. Make sure. Okay, yes, I am recording this. I forgot to record the meeting last time, so I will this time. You can come back and watch the recording if you need to see anything again. But go ahead and download. And the reason I want you to go and download them right now is to make sure that you can access them and they all attach correctly. So go ahead and try and download your feedback. And while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and get the examples ready so we can go through them and I can show you how to read the feedback and the rubric. Guide. So one of the documents that you're going to download is going to be the writing assignment comments guide. I think it's writing feedback comments guide is what I call it. So that'll be this one. It looks like this. And the other guide you're going to download is the one with the revising and editing comments guide, the really long name. And that's in a paragraph form. So when you download your paragraph, it's going to look like this. Now, if you open it, right now I'm in basically in Office 365 online. It's going to look different online than it does when you actually download it to your computer. So I'm going to download these and show you the difference so that you can see how they're different. See if it's download a copy. And I want to open it with Word. Over to the other screen so you can see it. So what you see on the screen now is the version of it if you're looking at it in the web browser, Microsoft Office, if you log in through the web. Then you download this to your computer, it looks like this, and this is the one you want to see. You want this version because all the comments are colored and it's not formatted correctly if it's on the web. So download it to your computer, make sure you click enable editing or it won't let you type in it or do anything. So your paragraph will look something like this. It'll have highlighting. It might have italics, so it'll have different annotations, and it's going to have comments over here. And so we're going to go through how to read the comments. And I've got a separate guide that's more detailed. And I'm going to go ahead and download that one too. That's the writing feedback comments guide. So what you'll use mostly is, of course, your own paragraph with the comments that I put on there after grading it, and this one that you see on the screen right now. Those are the easiest two to use. But I went ahead and included the example paragraph so you can walk through it right now. Instead, it'll be easier to look at the example and understand how to read it and then go to your own paragraph. Okay, so I use highlighting. I'm going to start by looking at the guide. Right here, this is information about annotations in Microsoft Word, and we'll talk about that later. But the first thing that I grade for is, of course, conventions. This is sentence structure, grammar, spelling, punctuation. If you have a sentence that's highlighted in gray, that means it is an error in conventions. So there's some error in mechanics, and I will specify which one. It'll be one of these. So it will either be a run-on sentence, and that's when two sentences are stuck together when they shouldn't be. It might be mixed construction, confused sentences. That means it needs to be restructured because it's unclear. And then you might need to combine sentences where you have fragments that maybe need to come together to make a complete sentence. or you're combining sentences because they have similar ideas. So when that's what I just talked about right now is basically what this says. So when you have these mechanical errors, it does affect the content. And most of the time it's going to cause unclear ideas. Now, when you have errors like this, there's two ways to fix them. So when you all did the revising and editing assignments this week, I had you look at compound and complex sentences, and this is why. Because if you have errors in mechanics, these two strategies are the most common ways to fix them. Making it a compound sentence, so that's if it's a few sentences, two sentences stuck together, you need to separate those. But you do it by making a compound sentence, adding a conjunction, and or the other way is a complex. And this is similar to compound, except it uses a different set of conjunctions. So,
I'm sorry, are you saying anything? I can't hear, so I was wondering.
yeah, I am. You can't hear me. Destiny, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Um, Rhonda, can you hear me at all? No? Okay. Chat. Um, so, okay, I'm typing a message. So just, yeah, type to me. All right, so this is one possibility. If you can't hear me, your speakers might be turned down. No. I'm just, it's just settings. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing this for a minute.
I can hear you now.
You can?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, wonderful. Okay. I was hoping it wasn't something on my end because I'm just technology gets challenging for me sometimes. Okay, so I'm glad you can hear me. So let me share again. Share screen. Okay. So, Rhonda, I'm not sure how much you missed. Did you hear the part about downloading your feedback? So if you go to my grades, you want to find writing assignment 1. You're going to look for the speech bubble. You're going to download the documents that come up. One of them will have your initial and last name, and it'll say narrative paragraph final draft. That's your graded paragraph with my comments and feedback and the rubric. And then these two are guides. What we're doing today is going over the two guides, so that will give you an example of how to read your own feedback for your paragraph. So that's one of the documents you downloaded was this. So I'm using this example paragraph to show you how to read the comments. So you will, when you're looking at your own feedback, you'll use, of course, your paragraph that's graded with my comments and this comments guide. Hang on. There we go. Right here. Okay, so it's called Writing Assignment Feedback, Comments, and Annotations Guide. I use the same sort of grading. I use the same grading, I guess, annotations is what you would call it for every writing assignment. So this is not going to change. So this time it might be a little, you'll take some getting used to reading it, but it's going to be like this for every assignment. It'll get easier as you go. And if you have seems like a whole lot of things marked up, don't be afraid. I grade the first writing assignment very, very detailed because you need a starting point. You need to know where you're at. And so that's why I give you the chance for revision. So this is you looking at where you're at. So I'm going to show you how to read the rubric. I use the same type of rubric, same categories. So the way it works is you're going to be able to see a progression with each writing assignment. You should see yourself moving up on the rubric. You should see the comments becoming less and less because you're improving your skills. So the first one is always the worst one, but it always gets better from there. So don't let it scare you. Like I said, I grade very, very detailed. So like I said, if you have a sentence highlighted in gray, that's a mechanical error. And I'll go to the paragraph here in a minute and show you, but I will specify what's going on. So that's why you did all the work on fragments and run-on sentences with the revising and editing sentences folder, the first one. It was so you'd be familiar with these. So if you have these mistakes in your own writing, you can fix them. So you will be practicing with what you learned with revising and editing assignments. So compound and complex sentences are the most important. If you're kind of unsure, I think you took the sentence types quiz. If you failed that quiz, I'll reset it for you so you can take it again. But you need to be familiar with the sentence types, or you won't be able to run. It'll be very difficult for you to revise sentences. So make sure you did those assignments. That's all. Okay, so that's for mechanical errors. You might have something highlighted in green, and it's going to be one of these errors. Most of the time, this is what is on the rubric. I'm going to show you the rubric. Right, let me bring it up. Okay, if it's highlighted in green, that's going to be this space down here on the rubric. So my comments also align with what's on the rubric. And that way, when you go to read the rubric, it'll make sense. So this is for basically those green highlighting. It's going to be these types of errors. And go back to the guide. For yellow, anything highlighted in yellow, that has to do with content or ideas. So that means you need to add information. You need to add details. And that's when, for narrative, I talked about narrative and descriptive writing having to do with having specific details and very specific language. And sensory details are appealing to the senses. So that's why you looked at that presentation over narrative and descriptive writing, was to show you examples of these because they're required to have them in your own writing. So, and if you have something highlighted in yellow, your comment is always going to tell you what's going on, what you need to add. It's going to give you guidance. And then these are just other random annotations. If something's in italics, it'll have a comment. For each one of these, there'll be a comment attached to it telling you exactly what's going on. So let me go to the paragraph so that I can show you. It'll make more sense if you see it in the paragraph. Okay, so here is, this is the example paragraph, and the first sentence is highlighted in gray. So that tells you it's a sentence error. Now, the easiest thing to do is to go to the comment, and the comment will light up what it's talking about. And if you open the comment, it'll be specific. Now, for this, for the example, it's just telling you what they mean. It's not giving you errors. So if it's gray, this just tells you it means the sentence or phrase needs to be revised or rewritten using the correct structure. And what it'll look like is this. It'll say whatever the error is up here, and then it's going to give you some it's going to give you some guidance on how to fix it. And I also a lot of times will give examples within your paragraph too, and I'll specify that. So the best way to read the comments is just to go down the comments and go one by one in order. Because then when I graded you, that's what I was doing. And over here, it tells you what type of error it is depending on how it's highlighted. So for example, this is yellow. So that would tell you it's going to be ideas. And so let's see what the comment says about it. So yellow needs to revise by adding details to a sentence or writing new sentences that add explanations and descriptions. That's kind of telling you how you'll correct it. But it'll look like this. It'll tell you what's going on. So it'll say specific details, but then underneath that, I'm going to ask questions specific to your paper. So this is the generic, like that's what's always there on everybody's, but then there'll be specific guidance depending on what your error was. So if it's details, I'll ask you questions, and those are guiding questions. The answers will help you figure out what to add. So this guide just lets you know the type of error it is, and then when you read your own feedback, that's going to tell you more specifically how to correct it. But in general, if it's yellow, you're going to have to add ideas. If it's in gray, you're going to have to fix sentence structure somehow. If it's green, it's going to be punctuation, or it's going to be spelling, or it's going to be maybe verb tense, but I always specify what the error is. And the same thing for italics. So this is going to tell you just different possible, um, different possibilities for the comments. So if it's green, it means you need, like I said, you need to edit those types of errors, grammatical errors. Now, if it has red font, that means it's already been fixed. So if it's anything in the paragraph that's in red font, it's been fixed. Now, if it's underlined, that might be different, but I'll specify. And any miscellaneous errors that might be in italics, there's always going to be a specific comment. You might see underlining, like I said. And if something's, if there's a strike through, you want to remove it. And I'll probably explain why. But so that's basically how you read the feedback. It depends on the color that it's annotated in. And then, of course, the comment's going to give you the specifics on what to do to correct it. So when you revise, that's all you're doing. Going down and you're following the comments and you're correcting based on my feedback. But the other thing you do need to look at is the rubric. Oh wait, it's not this one. Let me download the rubric. Your rubric is right after your paragraph in on yours. Right here, it's separate. But for your graded paragraph, it's going to be right after. Okay, so these are the columns. So this the A is to the far right. So this is what is perfect paper. Everything is supposed to be in it. For the most part, your rubric will just be highlighted. All the comments are going to be within the paragraph itself. But let me go over what the different categories are. And these categories won't change based on the writing assignment. So this is a narrative, but your next one will be compare contrast. It'll be the same categories. They'll still be purpose and main idea. It'll be development of supporting details, development of overall message. That one might change it a little bit. It's worded differently. It's a thesis or depending on the type of paragraph. The organization and mechanics. So these basic categories will stay the same. What's in red is what's specific to a narrative. So this tells you what I was looking at when I was grading it. So for purpose and main idea, what you wrote about was a challenge. So that's what I was looking at, is what was the major event or the challenge that you were writing about. And I would mark you wherever I thought you, wherever it lands on the rubric. And the rubric's very specific, so you'll have an idea of what's missing or what you might need to add. But it's all going to be in the comments. Development of supporting details in the case of a narrative, it's your description of the specific event or situation that happened to you. And it's also, did you use descriptive language? And that is, you're either, you had none, you're weak, you're limited, you're sufficient, or you're effective. But it tells you specifically what I was looking for. I think for the most part, if you're in this category, it means you're going to need to add details. So what I'm going to show you in a minute is some resources to go to look at some more examples of narrative paragraphs to understand what I'm going to show you here in a minute. An example of what this is: a C or a D and an A. I have a short presentation and it's also going to be available to you. So the rubric, wherever it's in red, is where you're at. And by doing the correction, that's going to move you up on the rubric. So when you get your revised paragraph back graded, it'll be on the same rubric, but graded in a different color, so you'll see how you improved. So for this time, these categories, as long as you're following the comments, because it's this time I graded for everything basically, you're going to be able to make all these corrections. As we go on and use the rubric a little bit more, for the next writing assignment, the narrative is, I do the narrative first because it's the one it's kind of the oddball. It's more like telling a story. The other forms of writing are very expository, so the rubric's easier to read on those assignments. So if you don't completely get the rubric this time, don't worry about it. Just make the corrections based on my feedback and my comments, and you'll be good. And down here, I'll have bolded, I think it's bolded in italics, what your main mistakes were. So this time, like I said, try and use the rubric just to kind of familiarize yourself with it. But go based on what is in red. So, for example, when it's development of the overall message, I was looking for you to talk about what lesson you learned from the experience or how it changed you. So that's specific to that. But like I said, all the comments will explain if you need to add there. So if you scored weak on this, you'll have somewhere in your comments telling you you need to talk about your lesson learned or how it changed you, and then you'll automatically move up. All right. So anyway, very detailed. Like I said, the rubrics they're very helpful, especially when it gets to the second assignment or you get the revised assignment back, because you can see how you improved and why. Um, so for this revision, you just follow my comments. You do what the comments suggest, what it tells you to add. And then I'm gonna go back to the class where you're gonna go to turn in the paragraph, and you're gonna work. Don't start a new document. Work from this paragraph, and you're gonna see the writing feedback guide. No, not that one. I'm sorry. The paragraph, the one with the paragraph. This shows you how to remove all of the annotations. So once you correct something, you can go in and take off the annotations and then just do it like that instead of starting a new document. Make the corrections in this one, and then you remove the highlights or the italics by coming down here, and it shows you where to go and to change it. So once you get your paragraph revised and you're good with your revisions, you're ready to turn it in. Then you're going to go to this week. So it's the same week 4. And you're going to go back into online lessons and assignments, and you're going to have the narrative paragraph revision folder. Now, all this is just step-by-step instructions. This is the details. And all this is what we just walked through. So it's how to download your feedback, the comments guides, how to read, how to remove the comments. So it's everything we talked about. There's no new assignments here. It's just going back and this is just this is a link to the revised reading sentences folders. So there's no new assignments in this folder. The only one is to turn in your revised paragraph. So all these are resources, things for you to
Come here. Come here. Go to the house. Come here.
I can't hear you. Are you trying to ask?
I'm gonna whip your head.
Okay, I can't hear you. No. Okay. You were cutting out. If you're trying to ask a question, you can unmute your microphone. You were just kind of cutting out on me. So basically, all I'm showing you here is this is just step by step everything we talked about: how to download your paragraph, how to read the feedback, how to remove the comments. Some additional resources that I have for you in here are lists of vivid words. So if it tells you to add details or sensory details, these are word lists that can help you add words. This is a document. It's transitions and linking words. So if it says you need to add transitions or you need new conjunctions, these are this is a resource for transitions. Now we haven't. I'm just giving you this to look at and use. We haven't talked about transitions in detail, so it's not an expectation or something I'm grading you on harshly. So we'll talk more about transitions with the next paragraph because it's comparative. The narrative, you'll use a few, but not many. So this is just there if you need it. One other thing I want to show you, and I'm going to actually attach it to this number 3 right here. But it is a presentation. Get it?
I'm sorry, Miss Foster. I don't know if it's just mine, but you're going in and out. I can hear some words, and then the others I can't. here, so I don't know if it's just me or if anybody else is noticing this, but
Okay, do you
you're
have
able.
your
Yeah,
mic?
it's going in and out.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. That means it's probably me. Look. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute and see if I can look at my audio issues here.
Like right now, you're talking and I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna try putting my headset on and see if that'll work. Good, here it is. All right, give me just a minute, you all. I do this. So my microphone is possibly not working. I get it. I tangled. Gosh, what happened? I swear. Okay. No. Okay, what are you doing? Stop it. Okay, it's having me test it.
Destiny, are you able to hear her?
So I heard what she had said, but it's like it was going in and out.
Okay.
Okay, I can hear it now.
Okay. All right, it should work. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right, can you hear me, Rhonda? Can you hear me? Is that any better?
Rhonda, you can hear her?
Can you hear me, Rhonda? Let me chat. Okay, what am I doing? I was trying to type in the chat, but it's not working. Okay, Rhonda, can you hear me at all? Let's see. Or is it still cutting out? Try. Okay, so
Can hear you.
my microphone, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can
It
hear
should,
you. It might be
okay, it should,
internet
okay.
connection. Or it could be
Yeah, now, it could be mine
her
too. I don't know.
her service.
So,
Yeah, I know I'm in the area, so I know it's most definitely mine.
okay. So I know you gotta love internet, right? What I know though is the recording should come out fine. So if you missed something, you can go back and watch the recording, and you should be able to hear everything I said. So, what I'm showing you now is it's a presentation that shows you a bad example and a good example of a narrative paragraph. So this is if you have a lot of yellow and it's telling you to add details. This presentation shows you that. So I'm going to share this. Right. Yeah, I'll just do it that way. Okay, so this is talking about basically details or what your narrative needs to have in it. So it describes one situation or event in detail. So you're going to have, it's the challenge that you experienced. And your paragraph also has to talk about what you learned or how it changed you, or how it made you feel. So this, we want to remember about a narrative is it doesn't tell, it shows. It shows through description what happened. This is an example of just telling the reader. So this is just listing things that happened without using descriptions or sensory details. You want to put an image in your reader's head. So it's like playing a movie in their head by describing what happened and making them feel like they were there. This does not do that. So this is what you don't want to do. And this, if you have a lot of yellow highlights and it says add details, or what you wrote is way too general, or it asks a lot of questions. So your writing might have been more like this. So my son was the reason I stayed in college. There were many difficult times. I was always tired. It was hard to study. I was different from the other students, but I stuck with it. I was determined. Now, this isn't horrible, but it's very general. And a good narrative gives lots of details. So instead of saying many difficult times, I want to hear about a specific difficult time and I want you to explain what happened. Instead of saying you were tired, I want you to physically explain what it felt like using sensory details. What did you hear? What did you smell? What did you taste? What did you see? So this is not terrible, but it's not narrative writing. So what you want your paragraph to look like, and it takes basically these same ideas, but it writes them in a descriptive or narrative way. So this is narratives. This would be those same ideas. Son being the reason she stayed in college. She wasn't like everybody else. It was a struggle, but she made it. Crammed behind my desk, I fidgeted and shifted my eyes to observe the other students in the room. I tried not to look the way I felt, like I didn't belong there with them. I couldn't help noticing that all the other women were wearing shorts, sandals, flirty summer dresses, appropriate clothes for a warm September day. I need to change that. That's not supposed to be there. I tugged at the baggy clothes hiding my postpartum weight. I thought of my 6-week-old son and hoped I'd make it home to nurse him at the scheduled time. The thought of him reminded me that however odd I felt, I was determined to stay in college this time. So this is narrative. This is the narrative version of this previous paragraph or list of general details. So instead of her just saying my son was the reason I stayed in college, the paragraph gives you these details. She talks about thinking of her 6-week-old son, how the hope she felt that she'd get home in time to feed him, what it reminded her. So it gives you all the details. So if you have add specific details or add sensory details, this is what it means. This is an example. So think of what you can see, what you can touch, what you can taste, what you can feel. Explain it like it's happening to you in the moment. So that is if you're asked for sensory or specific details. So this is one example. Um, I think there's one other example that I'll attach. I think I already did. I'm sorry, there's another presentation. I can't remember if I showed you. Let me go back and look. Okay, escape this meeting. Okay, and I'm going to attach this. What this is, so you had an assignment, I think it was week 2, it was fiction versus nonfiction, and you read about smart homes, and you also read a fictional text about written in 1950 about the future, and it was called There Will Come Soft Rains. It was about a house that ran itself. So what this is up here is this is from the expository article, the modern day article about the smart home. And this is a narrative excerpt from There Will Come Soft Rains. And all I'm showing you here is the reason that narrative's a little bit different. It's still a nonfiction type of writing, but it's written very much like fiction because you're telling a story. So There Will Come Soft Rains was not a true story, but your challenge is a true story. But the only difference between this fictional narrative and a non-fictional narrative is what it's about. The type of writing is the same. So what I have here is this talks about a smart oven, but it's just giving general details. So smart ovens, such as those from June, will be outfitted with cameras and digital thermometers, helping you monitor your food as it bakes. And instead of just hoping the medium hot setting on your gas range is hot enough, smart skillets will take guessing out of the equation by sizzling food at a precise temperature, which you'll set on a connected app. So that is expository, very general writing, little details. This is an example. Now they're writing about a kitchen in a smart home, but this is the narrative example. In the kitchen, the breakfast stove gave a hissing sigh and ejected from its warm interior 8 pieces of perfectly brown toast. So you could see it working. You could see it browning the toast, and then it ejects it out. So you're painting an image in the reader's head when you're writing narrative. So that's my point with this, is showing you the difference. One paints an image and one just gives you general ideas. So these two documents I'm going to post in the narrative revision folder in the class. Let me get back there. Okay, so it'll be in this paragraph, and I'm going to put it under number 3 with these other resources. So I'm going to add those two documents, the presentation and the one chart showing you the expository versus narrative writing. So follow the feedback comments and make the corrections you need to based on those. Take off the annotations and then turn in your revised paragraph. It's due by Sunday at midnight. So you want to have it revised and turned into this assignment here by Sunday at midnight. Well, 11:59, but
Due by this Sunday
and
or next?
this
After that,
Sunday. Yeah, Sunday the 27th. And then Tuesday, the new folder comes out. And if you are struggling and you need an extra day, just email me and tell me, hey, I need Monday, and that's fine. Just let me know. So if you need extra time, if you also need Monday to work on it, I don't mind. Just send me an email to let me know that's what's going on. Because the new folder won't come out till Tuesday. The only other thing I wanted to show you is I want to go to my grades, and I want to show you the new columns that I added, because you're going to see some new columns. So when you go to my grades, and they'll probably be up here at the top, you're going to have an assignments average, a learning curve average, and a current running average. Now I have a picture or a screenshot. Let me bring that up because let me find it. Where'd it go? Let me try quick access. Find it. No. All right, hang on. Sorry, you all. Thought I had. Okay, let me try this again. I have a picture explaining the. And I don't remember what I titled it. Oh, darn it. Sorry, you all. I can't find it. It's making me crazy. Okay. What I'm going to do is email it out in an announcement anyway. I'll find it. It's an annotated screenshot of what you see up here, but it tells you what, and I'm just going to explain it, but I'll put it out in an announcement. So your assignments average, that is for miscellaneous assignments. Let me go to the syllabus really quick. On your syllabus, you have the grading criteria. So the percentages for your grade, what makes up your overall grade. And it's right here, page, it's like on page 9. Okay. So your narrative paragraph, that's what you're working on now. When you turn that in, it'll be worth 15% of your overall grade. Now, what I added columns for are these two. So your learning curve assignments and your miscellaneous assignments. So, and it's a running average. That means it's only taking grades on those that are completed that have a grade in there or a 0. But if it hasn't been graded or if it hasn't been completed, it's not counting it. So those two columns are for your learning curve and your miscellaneous. And then what I also have in there is an overall running average, meaning only for what has been completed. So right now, your running average will include your narrative paragraph, your learning curve assignments, and your miscellaneous assignments so far. So let me go back to my grades. No, stop. Right. Okay. So assignments average, this is that miscellaneous assignment. So it's what you've completed so far, what's been graded. Your learning curve average, what you've done so far. So it'll have an overall grade over here on this side. And then your current running average is for those overall, for those percentages you've completed so far from the syllabus. So it'll be your narrative paragraph, and it's gonna count the grade you have in there for your narrative right now, but that's gonna change once you turn in the revised. Your grade will go up. So I just wanted to explain that that's what those were. So they're running totals, and they're not set in stone. It's just to kind of give you an idea of where you're at, consistently, so you can look at it and kind of know where your grade stands. So I just want to let you know that's what those were. So it's just sort of this is where you are right now. They're not permanent averages at this point. Okay.
So
Um,
that the grading thing at the top of the page where it say like um 578 to 900, I think that's what it is now. That would be kind of like a C if that's the case.
don't pay attention to that one. That I need to remove that. If it says total, oh, it won't let me. I don't know why Blackboard won't let me get rid of that. It's doing a points thing. So
Mm-hmm.
don't pay attention to that one. Your
Okay.
current running average is what kind of tells you where you're overall in the class right now. These other
Okay.
two is overall where you are for your assignments and then learning curve. But if you want to know where you kind of stand as of right now, it's this current running average over
Okay.
here. And the reason mine says 75 is because there's only one grade in the example. But that's the one you kind of want to pay attention to tell you where you're at right now. Um, and if you look at it and you have questions about it, just email me and I'll let you know, because sometimes I might have, don't let it scare you. If it's ever low, it might have been a mistake on my part. But right now, it should be about the same as your narrative paragraph, maybe a little higher. But like I said, your grade on your narrative will go up once you do the revisions. But I'm also gonna, like I said, I have an annotated version of the screen that I'm gonna email to everybody, so you can go back and look at what all of these columns mean if you forget. But that's
Okay.
it. That's all I have for you. So it was just to go over your feedback, what to do to revise, which is to revise according to the comments. Try and use the rubric to help you see where you're at, and then when you get the revised paragraph back, you're going to see how you moved up. And then have your revised narrative paragraph turned in by Sunday at midnight. If you need an extra day, email me and let me know. But that's it.
Okay. I had I had a meeting with the disability people, and my doctor also is doing something to give them, because I do have a kind of like a learning disability
Okay.
also.
All
So
right.
it takes me longer to catch on, but after I catch on, I'm okay. But it
I
takes
got
me,
you. Yeah, just if you need extra time on something, just let me know. I know you're
okay,
working. I know you are. So you know what you need. All you have to do is inform me, saying like, or if you need extra explanation, let me know. So
okay,
that's what I'm here for. So if you need to meet one on one sometime, and I also have my office hours on Thursdays, which oh my gosh, I forgot about. I just realized I forgot about my office hours yesterday. Goodness, I hope nobody needed me. But anyway, you can also email me or send me a message through Remind. If I don't answer right away, keep bugging me. Just send
okay.
me
So
another
you're back at
email.
campus?
No, I'm off campus for the summer. We'll be back in the fall. But what
Okay,
I mean by office hours is they're virtual. So
okay.
you can still see the class up here. So if you go to course content
Yes, ma'am.
and you scroll down and it's virtual office hours, if you click
Yes, ma'am.
here, it's every Thursday from 2 to 4. Now, I do ask you to sign up, but it's not a big deal if you don't. It's just that I want to make sure I'm there.
Okay.
like apparently I forgot yesterday, but if you try and join and I'm not there, then send me a message through Remind because that goes directly to my phone, or send me an
Okay.
email. And hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't forget. But every Thursday from 2 to 4, and that's to come and ask questions, get extra help if you need it, so anything at all. But if you can't
Okay.
meet at that time, and you need to meet some other time, then we can schedule a time to meet.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. All right, but any if you have any more questions, you can ask me now. But if not, then you can go ahead and leave the meeting. And like I said, this is recorded. It takes a little bit to download, but I will post the recording in the weeks. I'll post the recording and the narrative paragraph revision folder, the second folder. So
Okay.
so you can refer back to it if you need to. Okay, but you can go ahead and leave the meeting. I'm gonna go ahead and leave so I can post the documents that I told you all I was going to before I forget.
Okay.
Um, and then get the recording going. But so
Thank you.
thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And if you
Bye-bye.
need anything, just let me know. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the meeting.